I've spent years arguing that most organizations have got the wrong mental model when it comes to their UX teams. In the vast majority of organizations, UX is dramatically underinvested. You have one UX person or possibly a small team supporting an organization of dozens of developers, product owners, and business analysts, or possibly a small digital team made up of a variety of disciplines and generalists supposed to raise the quality of every digital touchpoint across the organization, no matter how big it is. In that environment, expecting UX to own and shape the entire user experience is not a strategy. It's wishful thinking dressed up as one. The only approach that actually makes any kind of sense is democratization. Instead of trying to do everything yourself, your job is to spread the capability, to set the standards, train people, and give everyone who touches digital the knowledge and tools to apply UX best practice on their own. I've written about this for years, and most UX professionals I talk to agree in principle. The problem has always been the execution. For the past decade or so, the most sensible response to this challenge has been a digital playbook, amongst other things. A playbook in this context is a collection of policies, principles, standard operating procedures, and training material that documents how an organization should approach digital work. Done well, it does several things at once. It educates people who don't have a UX background, it standardizes how work gets done, and it gives the UX or digital team something to point at when stakeholders want to skip testing or cram 12 things onto the homepage. The UK Government Digital Service Manual is probably the best example of this. It's a comprehensive, well-structured and genuinely useful site. It also probably took significant amounts of work to produce and presumably even more work to get people to actually use. The last part is the problem with most playbooks. They ask a lot of people they want to reach. If a product manager wants to run a quick survey to inform a decision, they need to find the right section of the playbook, absorb the methodology that they never may have come across before, and then learn to apply it in their specific situation and avoid dozens of ways this kind of thing typically goes wrong. That's a reasonable request if surveying is their job. It's a significant ask if they've got 3 other priorities and a deadline on Friday. The playbook, you see, shifts the burden of UX knowledge from the UX team to everyone else. In theory, that's fine. In practice, people are busy, and busy people take shortcuts. I say this after spending years advocating for playbooks, so make of that what you will. I've been building out a library of AI skills recently for my own consulting practice over about the last year or so. And along the way, I've realized that they can do the same job as a playbook, just in a radically different form. An AI skill, if you haven't come across the term, is a reusable standard operating procedure that an AI can follow on demand. You write it once, document the process in enough detail that an AI is capable of applying it reliably, and from that point on, you can use it without needing to understand the underlying methodology. This is what makes them interesting at an organizational level. A well-designed AI skill library doesn't ask the product manager to read the playbook before running a survey. It lets them say, I need to design a survey to find out why users are dropping out at checkout, and the AI will walk them through the process, applying your organizational standards as it goes. The best practice is embedded in the skill. The person using it doesn't need to have absorbed everything in the playbook first. That is a quantifiably different position from anything a static playbook can offer. The specific skills worth building will vary depending on your organization, but for a UX or digital team trying to extend their influence, the candidates tend to cluster around the task that non-specialists most often get wrong. Survey design is an obvious one. Writing questions that don't inadvertently bias the answers is harder than it looks, and most people who aren't user researchers have no idea how to phrase things in a way that doesn't lead respondents. A skill that guides someone through question design, flags leading language, and checks for common structural problems could save a lot of quietly useless survey data being collected. Prototype testing is another. The basics of usability testing, what to observe, what to ask, how to avoid putting words in the participant's mouth are all genuinely learnable. The problem is that someone needs to learn all of that before they can run a test, not during it. However, you could build a survey for writing user stories that capture real intent rather than implementation details, conducting a heuristic review of an interface, analyzing the results of an A/B test without drawing confident conclusions from a sample size of 40, assessing whether a proposed feature maps to actual user needs or is just something that sounds good in a meeting. Each of these represent expertise that currently lives in the head of a few specialists and gets applied only when those specialists have the capability and are directly involved. An AI skills library changed that dynamic. The expertise is no longer gated by headcount or availability. It is available wherever someone in the organization needs it in a form that they will actually use. Building a skills library at an organizational level is different from building one for yourself. You're not just creating tools that save you time, you're creating tools that let anyone within the organization apply a consistent standard without needing to be a specialist first. The UX team's influence is no longer bound by its headcount. And it's still relatively early days with all this stuff. Most organizations haven't even started thinking about AI skills at that level. And that means that the team that builds these libraries now will have a head start that gets harder to close over time. If you're thinking about this for your own organization, the most practical starting point is to identify 5 tasks that a non-specialist often gets wrong and that causes the most friction or quality problems when they do. For each one, document how it should actually be done in as much detail as you can. What does the process involve? What are the most common errors? What does good output look like? Then work with an AI to turn that into documentation that's actually a skill. Test it against real examples and refine it based on what it gets wrong. The goal isn't perfection on the first pass. The goal is something that's good enough and that can be improved over time. That's a manageable starting point and one that tends to produce visible results quickly enough that people want to keep going. If you're working through something like this and you want a thinking partner, or if your organization is seriously considering building out an AI skills library and you want some help thinking through what that looks like, I'm generally happy to have a conversation with you. Just drop me an email to paul@boagworld.com.